deja vu, but I thought this can't be true, cause
I know you moved on to someone new. Whole life is beautiful. You were the light for me to find my truth. I just wanna say thank you.
Leaving to find my soul. Told her I had to go. And I know it ain't pretty when our hearts get broke. Too young to feel this old. Watching us both turn cold. Oh, I know it ain't pretty when two hearts get broke. Yeah, I know it ain't pretty when two hearts get broke.
I hope someday we'll sit down together and laugh with each other about these days, these days. All our troubles we'll lay to rest and we'll wish we could come back to these days, these days. These days, these days. These days, these days.
3 years of ups and downs, nothing to show for it now. And I know it ain't pretty when the fire burns out. Calling me when I'm drunk, remind me of what I've done. And I know it ain't pretty when you're trying to move on.
Oh, yeah. I hope someday we'll sit down together and laugh with each other about these days, these days. All our troubles we'll lay to rest and we'll wish we could come back to these days, these days. Oh, I know, I know. Oh, I know, I know. Oh, I know, I know. These days, these days. Oh, I know, I know. Oh, I know, I know. These days, these days.
Cigarettes in the ashtray, reminiscing on those past days. I thought you'd know with my last name, but that changed. And I traveled around the world, think where you living at now. I heard you moved to Austin, got an apartment and settled down. And every once in a while, I start texting, write a paragraph, but then I delete the message. Think about you like a pastime. I could cry you a river, get you baptized. Or I wasn't ready to act right. Used to always think I'd get you back right. They say that things fall apart. We were gonna move to Brooklyn, you were gonna study art. Love is just a tool to remind us who we are, and that we are not alone when we're walking in the dark.
I hope someday we'll sit down together and laugh with each other about these days, these days. All our troubles we'll lay to rest. We wish we could come back to these days, these days. We wish we could come back to these days, these days, these days. I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. All through my city, all through my home. We're flying up, no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off of it, moving so phenomenally. Room on lock the way we rock it, so don't stop I can't stop the 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 nothing I can see but you when you dance.
Hi everyone, we'll be starting in about 10 minutes. Do grab a drink and take a seat. It would be great if you could move forward so people can have a seat as well. Thank you.
So keep dancing. Everybody say can't stop the feeling. Break it down. Got this feeling in my body. Can't stop the feeling. Got this feeling in my body. Ooh.
We'll be starting soon. Do grab a drink and get a seat. It will be great if you could move forward or move in so more people could get a seat. Thank you.
I thought that I've been hurt before, but no one's ever left me quite this sore. Hi everyone, we'll be starting soon. Do grab a drink and take a seat. It would be great if you could move forward so more people could grab some seats. There's still some seats in the front if you're willing to walk to the front. Thank you. Hi guys, don't be shy. There's still one whole row of empty seats right at the front. The speakers won't bite. Thank you. Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for taking time to join us in this evening's event. I am Tsing from SG Innovate, and today we are very happy to collaborate with our longtime partner, General Assembly, on another exciting session. At SG Innovate, we believe Singapore has the resources and capabilities to tackle hard problems that matter to people around the world. And part of our efforts include strengthening the community through knowledge sharing sessions like the one today. So without further ado, I'll pass on the mic to Gabriela from General Assembly to start us off.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming today. It's really nice to see you here. Before I will start, may I know how many of you have attended a session by General Assembly before? And me. Thank you so much for coming again, and hello all new faces here. Before we'll start the discussion, I just want to tell you a little bit more about General Assembly. We are a technology education company. We are focusing on education of applicable skills in space of digital technology as coding, data, UX design, marketing. So if you want to learn something new, please go to ga.co or talk to me after the session. And if you are looking for a provider of corporate trainings, we can talk also, because we are providing trainings for more than one-third of Fortune 500 companies. But I will not prolong it anymore, and please welcome our amazing panelists who will be discussing how technology and data can be utilized not just for basic commerce services, but especially how they can be utilized for doing something good and help society. So please welcome our moderator, Asim from Give Asia. Then Miriam, the founder of Busy, an investor in Good for Food. Hui Xiang from CPF board. And CJ Meadows, director from the Innovation Center, SP Jain School of Global Management. Hope you will enjoy the event, and please ask them many, many questions and try to learn as much as possible. And after the event, we will have some drinks in the back. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, hi guys, how are you? Great? Great, awesome. So the way we're going to structure this is we're going to spend about 40 minutes on just asking questions from the panel. We are very lucky to have a very esteemed panel here from different sectors. So we have Miriam, who works around the world, working with a lot of SMEs. We have Hui Xiang, who's working in the public sector with CPF. And we have CJ, who's working in a social enterprise with a project called Tiger Project, and then also working with a lot of leading business schools. So I think it's going to be super exciting. If you have burning questions, please raise your hands. We would like that during the first 30, 40 minutes. After that, we'll open it up to the floor. So let's just start with each of you sharing about what are you doing and how did you get started on the journey of what you're doing?
Okay, hi everyone. It's great to see such a big audience. Thanks for coming. I'm Miriam Filer. I'm the co-founder of Busy.co. Busy.co is a small business collaboration platform. So it's where the world's small businesses come to collaborate with each other. We have Busy users from 57 countries on the platform who are posting opportunities, asking questions, supporting each other, sourcing from each other, and starting to team up and collaborate in meaningful ways locally, regionally, and globally. I am Australian. I've been in Singapore 6 years, and I've actually been in small business growth and international trade for 20 years without giving away my grand old age. I can see most of you are much younger than that. But I've been involved in small business growth, and one of the things that small businesses really struggle with is a lack of access to resources, to contacts, and to opportunities. So we're hoping to plug the gap with Busy and provide them with what they need to thrive and grow. Thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm Hui Xiang. Yeah, happy to be here today. So I'm actually a technical person, and I have been working 6 years in the public sector. And so For today, the views are my own and not representing my company, as you know. Yeah. CPF is actually a public organization that manages the National Social Security System of Singapore. So over at my work, I do a lot with data, and then I try to find answers to support operations as well as policies to see how best we can improve our service delivery, and also to see how we can better help Singaporeans in their retirement adequacy. And also outside of work, I also run a data science blog. So it is to help people who are interested in picking up data science and also try to see like how certain tools are helpful in doing certain kinds of analysis. Yeah, so at work I use R, Python, Tableau, like you know the usual tech stuff, yeah. And previously, I was also a data science for social good fellow. So this is kind of like a long introduction, but yeah, I have to mention this because it's a very precious experience. So I mean, during the fellowship, it was a 3-month fellowship, and I got to be trained under Raid Ghani, and he's very inspiring because he's actually the chief data scientist for the Obama 2012 election campaign. Yeah, and got to hear his experiences, how he conduct like the whole campaign with analytics, and how reach out to people to get them to vote. Yeah, so during the fellowship, we actually got to work on projects that help solve different kinds of social challenges related to healthcare or transportation, public safety kind of stuff. So during the whole fellowship, we kind of learned the best practices as well, like relating how to come up with a pipeline, and also how eventually when we hand over to the partners, we want to make sure that there's a smooth handover so that they can continue working on what we have done. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Way cool, way cool. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. CJ Meadows. I run an innovation center at a Forbes Top 20 global business school. I'm a serial entrepreneur, old dot-commer, DBA, Harvard Business School. I chair a not-for-profit corporation, and a whole bunch of wild stuff like feeding and photographing sharks, and being mom for 4 fantastic kids from all around Asia. Thank you.
All right, great. All right, so CJ, let's start with you first. So you mentioned
You're picking on me, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. So education, right? So that's something which is disrupting really quickly. And like, what role do you see tech playing in that space? Because you work with a lot of leading business schools. How do you see it changing? And how do you see it changing 5, 10 years down the line?
Absolutely. I mean, 5, 10 years down the line, can we please catch up, like education with the rest of the world? Yeah, I work for a global business school, and we are totally techifying everything we do. We've just got a new video out on our e-case room, whereby MBA students from all over the world can log in, and we can hold a case discussion Harvard style, but you don't have to be in the Harvard style class. So, you know, IT changes the economics of everything. As a matter of fact, I was just talking at INSEAD at an education conference, and I said to the audience, and all of them are educators and innovators and investors in education, okay, 4 kids. Are you all going to send them to university? Let me ask you this. Who's going to send their kids to university? Yeah? Like a reasonably good number. How much are you going to pay for that? Okay, a lot. I got actual numbers at INSEAD, and it was $100,000 to $300,000 per. I said, fine, call it 2. That's $800,000. I can send my kids for a great online university, such as Open University, which is #1 on the iTunes store, for $25,000. Okay, that's $100,000. So now I have $700,000 left over, so that each kid can start a startup, and we can put that in our businesses, or I can send them around the world for amazing experiences, which is an education. Why wouldn't anybody do that? So education has to catch up with the consumer, and the consumers need to demand something new and something individual. And the old systems and the old things that we're teaching people for industrial age factories are not the skills you need. you need the skills for the next stage, which I will shut up about now and turn it back over to you.
Right. Okay, what about you, Huishang? What do you see, like, tech and data, what's the role it's playing in public sector? All views are personal, your views, so yeah. You're not representing your organization.
Yeah. I guess in general, like for public sector, we can easily see the social impact. Like a lot of things revolve around residents. So like for certain things, residents have to transact with the government. And also in general, like government has a lot of data about citizens. So it's about the government putting all the data together. So currently, like, I don't know, before I joined the public sector, I always have this impression that, oh, there is one big data warehouse that stores all the information about citizens, but it's not. Like each organization, they host the data tightly to themselves, and they are not very willing to share somehow due to privacy or confidentiality issue. So all this can actually help to improve like service delivery to citizens and to different, to be able to basically synergize and then to come up with better solutions, I feel. Yeah, if we have a holistic view of the citizens. Yeah.
And what is, just to go a little bit deeper on that, so what is the protocol between, like, sharing of this information cross-sector?
So for us, at least, like people who are requesting for our data, we have to make sure that they justify what they are using the data for. And then we have to seek like our CEO's approval if it's up to the individual level. So a lot of things, like even say, for example, members appealing to do certain actions, and it involves like the individual data to be sent out. We have to seek CE's approval, which is a little bit funny because it's so operational, but we have to go to such a high level. Yeah.
Okay. Miriam, what about you? So you work on a global scale, and I think technology is a different kind of scale of adoption in all these countries you work. So how do you kind of reconcile what you do?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. We have businesses from I think if you turn yours off. No? Yep. Yes,
technology at its best.
So look, we have businesses from countries that are at various stages of development. So, I mean, we have the Singapores, the Australias, the US, and then we can have businesses in rural parts of Africa, in more remote parts, say, of the Philippines, where internet is patchy. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that giving technological access to small businesses totally transforms their business, their families, economies, and really the globe. So really what we're about is for the good of small business, and data plays a huge role. According to the World Bank, there are 125 million formal, micro, small and medium enterprises, 125 million. That doesn't include the non-formal. There could be another 200 to 300 micro, tiny businesses operating throughout the world, street sellers, people just kind of doing, stuff from home across the globe. Small businesses account for 96% of all the businesses in the world. So across the globe, they are the engine of every single economy. So giving them access to technology obviously opens them up to the ability to transact, to make a sale, to be able to swipe a credit card, even if they're a street seller somewhere, in a little town in India and a tourist has come through. An ability for them, it opens up not only where they are, but it opens them up to start to explore collaborations across their cities, across their countries, and obviously globally, if they can start to understand e-commerce and set up these platforms. For us, data is about measuring impact. We firmly believe that collaboration supercharges businesses. So businesses that collaborate go further at less cost, with more efficiencies, there's strength in numbers. There's a lot to say for collaboration. But that's how we feel. I mean, we've got a lot of people who we've interviewed, and we know through our own experiences as entrepreneurs, when you collaborate, you go further. But we need to prove that, and that's where data can play a role. That we can start to see on the platform, well, is it true, in fact, that when businesses collaborate, they can grow further? So for us as a business, we can start to track what our members, users are doing, how they're collaborating. And we're getting actually a lot of interest now from institutions, from UN, from universities who are like, hold on, you've got a lot of data that we can tap into to help us to create policies, to improve the way we do things, to start to deliver things to small businesses. So being such a massive percentage of every economy, there are a lot of people interested in what small business are doing, and the data that you can collect on how they're growing their business, where they're failing, where they're growing, where the opportunities are. I mean, for us, I think data will have a huge role to play in the future of our business. Yep.
I just heard recently Stripe partnered with World Bank to kind of do a study globally about how businesses are and entrepreneurship is growing. So I think I would like all of you to share with me or share with us some of the, or one of the most inspiring examples of how tech and data is being used for social good in your field of work. It could be any initiative that you came across. If you can just share with us like how that looked like. CJ?
You're going to pick on me again, aren't you?
Yeah,
oh yeah, cool, very cool. One of the many weird things I do at running an innovation center at a business school is to research innovation and try and innovate how we innovate. So one person I came across, brilliant, wonderful guy, Jawahar Kanjalal, he worked for Nokia. And Nokia wanted to open up India for mobile phones. Obvious, good idea for that. And they said to him, no, you're not going to transplant some tech. You're going to build it there for the people there. And he built up something that was relevant to the common man in the villages of India, which is most of India. And it was called Life Tools. They discovered that among the populace, farm information, health, and education were what people really need. And they devised a way to deliver to a person's mobile phone via SMS, if that was a pregnant woman, exactly what she needed to know at exactly her stage of development. If that was a farmer, exactly what he needed to know on the market price of his wares and what insects were coming his way and what the weather was going to be. For education, exactly what the kids in the household or anyone in the household needed to be more educated to go forward. That sort of personalized information, multilingual, and as a matter of fact, it was all over the world. In many contexts, people received exactly the information they needed. After Microsoft bought Nokia, they shut it down, and 125 million subscribers were sent adrift. And no one has ever replicated that sort of personalized information. But the 125 million people who paid for that, and some of them instead of paying for milk or bread or rice, found information more valuable than anything else they could buy.
I guess like for now, at least for most commercial companies, they are ready, they have the resources, the financial resources to get people to do data and tech to help support your businesses. But for social organizations, not so much. So at least for the organization, the initiative, the programs that I've been in, we try to pair people with the skills to those social organizations. And it is usually like the organizations, they have to have some kind of data, and they need to be supportive as well, that they can help us in understanding their business. So it is kind of a win-win situation for both parties as well, those people who want to use their tech skills for good, and also the organizations, they get people to solve the problems for them for like a nominal amount of money or even for free. So there is this other initiative that I am part of, and it is a kind of like a volunteer program as well. So it's called Vis for Social Good. So if you are interested in like data visualization and using your Tableau skills or whatever, your D3JS skills, and there are some non-profit organizations out there that need people to help them analyze their data and also kind of sieve the insights out. Like, for example, some of the project partners are like the UNDG, United Nations Development Groups. So they work on really critical problems like a crisis risk dashboard kind of thing and vulnerable groups, in Palestine. So it is meaningful that we get to see problems outside our work as well, and then we get to see like how our skills can actually help people understand a problem better and also appreciate the problem that the organization is tackling. So it kind of helped to gel the ecosystem in a way that where people can get to learn and contribute at the same time, and also the business, I mean the social organizations, they can also benefit from us. Yeah.
Is this project in Singapore?
So it is actually a worldwide initiative. I mean, it was founded by this person who is based in San Francisco. She's called Chloe, and then people who are interested can just go to visforsocialgood.com and then register themselves, and there will be projects published on a regular basis, and so it's like on time, on target. You can do it at whenever you're free. Yeah.
You also mentioned you're a fellow at the Data for Social Good.
Yeah.
Is that the organization from Chicago, or?
Yes.
Okay. So you went to Chicago for.
So for my year is special. Like last year, it was the first year that was held in Lisbon, Portugal. Yeah, they started a fellowship over there. They are trying to expand into a global network. So for me, I got to work with 2 other fellows on this project that supports, that looks at how to improve petrol deployment for for getting to incidents on the highways as fast as possible. Yeah, so we get to work with this ministry in Netherlands, who is in charge of ensuring road safety in the highways. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit of your experience just for other data scientists in the house? So did you apply with an idea or a social problem, or you just apply for the program and then you are then paired with the problem and with the team? How did that work?
Yeah, sure. So when we applied, we are assessed based on mostly our technical skills and also our soft skills like working in teams, as well as our interest in social impact. Yeah, working on problems related with social impact. So we are then kind of selected after 2 rounds of interviews, and there is also another call for proposal for project partners as well. So eventually the projects that were released to us after we were accepted are those project partners that are deemed to have to be data ready and also be able to commit to the whole 3-month fellowship. So during the fellowship itself, we have regular meetings with the project partners. Like for some of the project partners, they are based in Portugal, so they can meet up with the partners physically. But for a lot of us, we kind of do like Skype meetings. Yeah, because they are all over the world. So I mean, the project partners come from different parts of the world. So what is great about the fellowship is that even though, say for example, I'm working on this particular project and some other fellows, some other teams are working on another project, we get to share a lot about how we tackle the projects that we are doing, and we get to learn from one another. So the models that, and also like for example, the tools that we are using can be different, but essentially we know like how other tools can help solve certain kinds of problems.
Yeah, so I think I've been really fortunate over the past 6 years to have been involved with entrepreneurship and with startups, and I've been able to go to conferences and be a judge and watch some incredible startups pitch. And when we came to look at Busy and what our goals are in terms of numbers, we would ideally like to have 10% of the world's SMEs collaborating on Busy by 2025. So that's 12.5 million. And we came to the realization, wow, if 12.5 million businesses are collaborating daily on Busy, there are going to be a percentage of them that are collaborating for good.
So they're actually collaborating to solve big challenges. So really our vision for Busy is to enable collaborations that solve the world's biggest problems. And because of I guess, that vision, I've been involved over the past, say, year in speaking and meeting with a network of businesses who are all looking to address the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. The United Nations has 17 goals that address everything from gender equality to plastics in the ocean to economic good. I mean, basically, they've itemized 17. The 17th is to do with partnerships. And a lot of startups now are starting to look at those SDGs and say, right, well, we're addressing this one and this one and this one. And so I've been around a lot of businesses that have been set up for major social impact. And I have to give a bit of a plug for a homegrown startup that I've actually invested in, Good for Food, because they're addressing food wastage in Singapore and hopefully around the world as they grow. It's super cool. It's an IoT, Internet of Things business. It's like a smart bin with a very cool algorithm that can actually measure everything that gets thrown away in a commercial kitchen. So you know when you go to a hotel and you go to the buffet and you kind of go, oh my gosh, who eats all of this and what happens at the end of it? It all gets thrown away. So what this bin does is it measures everything from a pea to a half an apple, and it puts a monetary value of what the hotel has actually spent on that. And in the course of a week to a few weeks, the chefs can start to say, wow, you know, no one's eating dal on a Wednesday, you know, or, you know, no one really liked that pudding, or whatever it is, and they can start to amend their ordering. And so data, I mean, for them, it's playing a huge role, and there's some pilots in some of the major hotels now in Singapore. It's going really, really well. And again, a very clever use of technology, algorithms and data to solve a huge global problem, which is food waste. We just don't have enough food to go around. So I just thought I'd give them a bit of a plug. And, you know, I just encourage all of you to, if you are looking to start a business, you know, really look at businesses that can make a really big impact to the planet. The news is just getting worse and worse by the day. So anything that we can all do to kind of combine our efforts to solve these big challenges, I think we will all benefit from it.
Can I build on that? That would be so cool. I'd love to draw your attention to Virginia Cha over at INSEAD and Platform E at SIM. I was just recently in the Restorative Innovation, and there's a Wright Foundation Restorative Innovation conference at INSEAD, and they're doing work already in that area. There's also IDEO, the design guys, and they're working with the Rockefeller Foundation on food waste, and they have put together some great initiatives. You know, a third of the food we produce in the world every year is just wasted. It's just gone. But they've funded a startup that turns the food waste into bioplastic. So there's amazing technologies out there, and there's some more connections for that. And if anybody would like to go to ideo.org, you can learn about design thinking and contribute as a volunteer to some of those types of projects and build up your own innovation skills.
Right, let's come to talent, right? Talent in this space. I think, you know, companies are all about people. In your perspective, do you think there's enough talent when it comes to leveraging data and tech for social good? And if not, how can that be changed?
Ooh, he's looking at me.
All right, we start with you, Susan.
Okay, you want to go ahead? Oh no, I see you sweat. Oh, no. So yeah, I mean, there's always more talent needed in these particular areas. Go out and get yourself certified in whatever it is you want to do. And there are volunteer opportunities like at ideo.org to build up your skills. Does anybody know what's the average age of a successful startup entrepreneur? Guess? Anybody? Good. 30? Eh? That is sort of self-defined, I think. That's a good question. Anybody? Anybody? Somebody got it. It's actually 45. So if you know, it's not too late. It might actually be too early. but you know, if you're under 45, start getting those skills and start making your moves. If you're 45, it's prime time. If you're after 45, great, you're bringing the average up. Oh God, am I one of them? Never mind. Actually, the co-inventor of the lithium-ion battery is now working on solid-state battery technology. And people say, why are you still doing this? How old are you? He's in his 90s. So the talent development starts today, and it's you doing these fabulous things going forward.
I mean, as a technical person, I would, of course, like more technical buddies, right? Like, or have bosses who understand technical terms, so you know it's easier to communicate. Like when I say regression, people know what I'm doing. I don't really need to explain. And when I talk about coefficient, people know what it means. So I guess in Singapore, like the government is also trying to pump in more resources to train public servants to be more data literate, and also like trying to get more students to be exposed to coding, programming at a younger age. So I think it's a really good move, yeah. I mean, we are, I guess, a bit slow, but never too late, yeah.
I think you should also talk about your blog. So can you share with us like what led to that blog and what's the purpose of the blog you're running?
Okay, so after the fellowship, I mean, actually during the fellowship, I learned a lot. Like I got to be exposed to GitHub, and also like to be exposed to Python. So previously I was a R user. Okay, this is really getting technical, but okay, basically it's just another programming language. And then I feel like for us, at least now I can see like more and more people are using certain type of languages, and also certain type of tasks are really necessary at work, and there's a lot of emphasis on like doing cool things like deep learning and trying to do like facial recognition and stuff, but this is like just by deploying the APIs, and I mean a lot of times at least people don't really know what happened behind. Like you don't really need the theory, the foundation to be there to be able to use the models. So for at least for my blog, that's the focus where I try to bring it to a more basic level, and also like for certain tasks, I try to go through like the rationale, like how actually we should go through certain steps, like data cleaning, and yeah, which is really essential, and also like I publish my code on GitHub, so it's open source, and people actually can use it if they are interested, yeah.
So I'll speak from a small business perspective, because not everyone's cut out to be a programmer or a techie. And I think what we're going to see in the future is the nature of work change. I think there's going to be more individual people with skills out there looking to offer their skills to other businesses. And I think when it comes to sourcing talent in the future for small businesses have limited resources. They can't necessarily afford the team that they would like. And so I think, you know, I really want to encourage you to look at collaboration as a way to source talent and actually get other individuals, either they're solopreneurs or small businesses, who have that expertise to actually collaborate with you to create something. So I just think the future of small business is changing. Collaboration will be able to provide you all with the ability to grow further, because you are collaborating with people with complementary skill sets that you don't even need to have in your own team by collaborating with other people.
Can I build on that? Yes. Okay, collaboration, totally yes. And the skills that we need for the next stage may be a little different. I started programming in 1987 for an unnamed National Defense Department, and no, I don't need you all to calculate how long ago that was. the way we did it back then has changed from waterfall to agile, and in the future it's going to be cobotics. We have created machines that can program machines, and we need to be separating out what machines can do versus what humans need to do. Humans are needed now because machines, if they have repeated examples, can deep learn. So they need the examples, and they can do something once they learn it again and again and again. But the absolutely novel remains the purview of humanity. So we need to learn how to collaborate with our cobotics to do the programming and collaboration.
And do you think we have the required skill sets, or do you think we are moving in the right direction? Because I think AI...
We're moving in the right direction. We're not fast enough. We need a combination. We need to be whole-brained, and to be whole-brained not in and of ourselves, but in and of our, we need to be able to collaborate with the cobotics and the people so that we're creative and analytical, critical thinking. We're analytical, higher order thought, and we're doing anti-motive. Whatever team you make has to be a whole brain team in order to get something profound done.
Can you also share what, in the upcoming future, within your industry, so, whether we're talking about collaborative innovation, we are talking about public policy, what are the biggest threats? What are the biggest threats which you think tech and data can solve? Does anything keep you up at night, thinking that maybe this is going to be super problematic for our industry?
Maybe I'll go first. So I think for now the big talk is about ethics. Yeah, using AI for good, in a ethical way. So there's so much talk about how with the Cambridge scandal, and also how people are manipulating data for whatever purpose that they're doing. Yeah.
Okay. And what about Miriam?
What's really the gap, when it comes to small businesses, that you have such profound gaps of wealth, access to resources, access to knowledge and technology around the world, and how do we try to lift small business up so that everybody and in every region can benefit. So that's really what keeps me up at night. It's the challenge of how we can roll out something and make such an impact that a farming cooperative of women in rural Kenya and someone in a small business here in Singapore can have the barriers removed to growth as equally, so that they can achieve really what their full potential is.
I think we're going to open the floor to questions. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Okay, let's start from here. Can we have someone to help with the mic? Or maybe you can just shout it out.
Your comments on. So is DeepMind, the so famous DeepMind company which was behind AlphaGo and got acquired by Google, they did a small experiment that I found very interesting. They created two AIs. They created a game with two AIs inside the game, and with also small apples inside the game. And the objective was to collect as many apples as possible for the two AIs. They had the same goal. And they also had an option of beaming a laser at the other one so that they neutralize them. So you can collect or beam but you cannot do both at the same time. That's the point of the experiment. And so they used reinforcement learning, so they did not give them any program. They did not program them. They just gave them the the objective of collecting as many apple as possible, and they wanted to see how the two AIs will behave. What will they do to maximize their number of apples? So, and then they changed a bit the parameters by changing the number of apples that were accessible to the two AIs. And they found that they tend to change behavior based on the number of apples. So if the the number of apples is low, they mostly beam at each other and neutralize each other. And if the number of apples accessible to them is big, they tend to be more collaborative, actually, and to be more like sharing the pie. So I think that resonates a bit with your platform on collaboration. And so do you think, what's your comment on this? And does this, can you make similarities with how humans behave or, or the technology?
Yes. Look, I think when it comes to small businesses, the base need of a small business is to make a sale, and to make the sale, and they will do what it takes to make the sale, but the lack of knowledge on how to actually get those apples or get that sale, that's the gap that we need to solve, because businesses don't necessarily know how to get the one apple, let alone the 100 apples that's going to really take their business to the next level. And in terms of artificial intelligence, I mean, there's clearly a role within our platform to implement AI to enable for the busy AI to actually coordinate the businesses around the collaboration, and to actually almost provide like a supply chain to be able to go and get that outcome. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I mean, in terms of how the AI can guide the small businesses in a more seamless way to reach the collaborative outcome or the individual outcome to get those apples without shooting everybody down, you know, because it is about collaboration and not competition, and making sure that that everybody knows that there is enough business for everybody. And I think that's the essence of what maybe makes people more cautious and more competitive, thinking that they're not going to be able to get what the other person gets. There is enough for everybody, and if we actually encourage collaboration, you'll get there faster, you'll get there in a better way, and you may end up getting many more apples than you ever thought. I don't know.
DJ, you have something to say?
At its heart, technology reflects those who designed it. So for people who are afraid that the technology will get away from us and become something else that's not us, we have deeply embedded in the rules of learning and the rules of behavior of the technology we build, our own rules of behavior and our own ethics. If you actually watch street children under a bridge in Bangkok, you would think that children who have no home, have no teachers, and have no food would just go grab the food and eat the food. And they don't. They actually form communities under each bridge, and they go get the food, they bring back the food, and they share the food. So there is inherent in the species that builds the technology core ethics, core behaviors that I believe will be reflected in the technology. And often enough, if you watch the technology, it behaves like the designers. Built into every successful entrepreneur are the rules of entrepreneurship. And I can summarize all of business education for you in about 6 words. Create value and share it. That's what every entrepreneur does. And every successful business does. And if you stop creating value and you stop sharing it, your business is gone. And if in any apple game you stop collecting apples and you stop sharing the apples, the game is done.
Yes, go for it.
Actually, I'm really glad that you asked that question before me because it only emphasizes my question. It's so inspirational to hear you ladies and gentlemen speak about this topic. It's something super close to my heart as well. I work for a digital health and well-being platform that aims to bring healthcare to ASEAN countries in rural parts of the world that don't have access to healthcare. But the reality is, as inspirational as this all is, and I'm sure probably about 99% of the audience are on our side, the Nestle's and the Starbucks and the Coca-Colas and the McDonald's still rule the corporate world. When is going to be that crux point when we turn around and say, it's not about how we innovate, but about actually changing the way we do business so that social good can actually become something that happens now rather than something that we continue to dream and reach for?
So take it. Just my personal thought. So if you read some of the books by Nicholas Nassim Taleb, he always talks about how if you go to US and you're having a drink, you realize that actually all of the drinks and all of the meat in US mostly is like halal, and it is also for Jews, there's a special type of drink they drink, so all of them are 100% under that category. And the question was, why is that? Because Jews only form 1% or 2% of the US population. And his theory is that a minority, if a minority can actually really voice out that they wouldn't do something, right? Unless it follows a certain criteria, the majority would actually give it to them. So if you read this rule of minorities, sometimes minorities can actually make majority do something. So I think what we need really is to kind of band together and basically say that we're not gonna buy from brands which are not providing a certain ethical kind of standard. I think there is definitely a possibility of doing it, and I think never in the past have we been all so connected. Never in the past have we had actually the tools to rally at a global scale. So I definitely think things are moving in that direction. So yeah, it's going to be us. It's going to be someone in the room maybe who starts that wave. Do you guys have? Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you mentioned Coca-Cola. One of the people that I learned from when I was doing my global research on world-class innovators has founded a corporation that integrates silk fibers with vaccines and makes them shelf-stable. In a $16 billion industry, 80% of the cost of getting a vaccine out to someone is refrigeration. So all of a sudden, all of that cost, all of those billions of dollars every single year are gone, and millions of people can get vaccines. What's the distribution network that they think would be super cool, and it's there and it's useful for their silk microneedles, which are on a little silicon dot, infused with the vaccine? How would you get these little silicon vaccine dots to every village in the world? You'd go to Coca-Cola. So there's no written or unwritten law that says business is the bad guy. Business creates value and shares it, and when it no longer does that, it's gone. So as long as business has data for philanthropy to get food information to the United Nations for crisis situations, there's been a hurricane, who has food? Well, the corporations have the data, and they have the food, and they can release it. And there's things like these new developments with vaccines as well. You can use the corporations, and they want to do good. But CSR shouldn't be a marketing ploy. It should be the integration of business and society, which is naturally integrated anyway.
We have one question there behind.
Can you hear me? Yep. So first off, thank you for being so candid and sharing your experience. So I've got a couple questions. First one is in regards to social impact, in regards to the data. And how are you guys, in your experience, how you guys see it, thinking is the best way to measure that social impact? Just because you get a lot of NGOs kind of out there marketing themselves as being, very good for society, but it's hard to kind of prove the correlation between money donated and the results. Second one would be if you are a startup or an NGO and you're wanting to use data for good, how are you guys, in your experience, finding it tactically to broker, finding the right data sources from multiple partners to get on board on your social cause?
I'm just going to try to answer the first part of it. So I run a platform called Give Asia. We work with a lot of charities on our platform. And one thing which we realized is that, unlike business where it's really black and white, you're making profits or you're losing, in charity world, it's a very, I would say, complex problem. It's a system problem. What they call it's a wicked problem. So, lots of time your good intentions can have unintended consequences and, actually cause more problems than good. So I would say that there isn't a very, straight answer to that question. It is a complex it's complex to measure impact. And it will vary for each organization. So, whichever organization you're supporting, I think you have to really look at how they are defining social impact and why are they choosing to do so. Of course, there are organizations like this one called Effective Altruism. There's another one called, GuideStar. You can look at how they are measuring it. But again, I think it's quite subjective. It's not a very objective answer. So that's first part of your question. Anyone wants to answer the second part?
I think I can add on. Sure. Yeah. So in general, like most organizations, they will have their own KPIs, and usually data and tech can help to enable them to be more efficient. So previously, I was working with ACRES, as part of a collaboration, and they are actually trying to identify illegal animal trade on an e-commerce platform. So what they do usually is a lot of manual work. They go and search based on certain search words, and then they manually take down, say for example, the username information and the price and the various details relating to that particular search result. And all this can be automated, but it's because they don't have the resources and they don't have the manpower to actually enable this kind of automation. And this is where we can come in with our skills. So it's in general, I find certain organizations, they are still not really exposed to this space yet, and it is also part of on our part to reach out to educate more people about what data and tech can do. Yeah.
I'll just add as well that impact can be at a very, very micro level, and within any room or 10 square meters, you could have many little things that are being done that can impact those people and those businesses. When it comes to us wanting to, for the good of small business and grow small business globally, it's going to be a multi-pronged effort. Ultimately, we're a business. We want to have millions of users on the platform. We want them to be, running multiple collaborations, expanding, and seeing them really grow. So the proof will be in how many users actually have a positive impact on their business. It could be they made a sale through the platform that they wouldn't have done had they not been on the platform. They could have created something marvelous that could be life-changing. But
that is still an impact. For us, we feel that we want to really be seen as a thought leader in small business collaboration, which means we're now in discussion with multinationals, with the UN, with governments, with ambassadors to try to get them to spread the message of collaboration. You know, Singapore released the CFE report a while back, and one of the pillars was collaboration. The other one was digital innovation. So since they released it, it's all been about digitization and getting Singaporeans online. Collaboration hasn't really been mentioned since the CFE report was released. Now that's something that, we feel that, can we get the Singaporean government to talk more? Ministers will talk about it, but when it filters down, it just doesn't reach the businesses. So it's about, what we can do as Busy to come in and support governments. Governments have limited money. They want to do a lot for small business. And, if we can come in and say, well, look, we've got this free platform. We've got a great way for your businesses to go on it. Can we partner? Can you help us get it out into your SME communities? So it is about these kind of multi-pronged collaborations across all the stakeholders to create the impact you want. And for every single business, that will be different, and how those collaborations work and that impact is very, very different depending on really what you're trying to solve. But it doesn't mean you just stop. If you've got that vision, you've got to figure out. It's the same way if you have a vision for your business and we teach people how to collaborate and we say, right, these are the complementary businesses you should identify. It's different for everybody. Figure out who they are and start to form these collaborations to get to where you want to go. We're the same. We're like, right, this is what we want small business to look and feel like, and for people to feel like they're actually able to make money to support their families and their communities. And what's it going to take, and who do we need to collaborate with to get that happening?
Hi guys, thank you for your sharing today, and it's been great discussion. I'm Jacob, and I work on a day-to-day basis with telco and mobile operator data. And one of the most interesting conundrums or interesting question here is in terms of data privacy and sharing data. And we're talking about collaboration and making use of data for social good. So usually the case of data privacy comes about when you're talking about commercial good. How do we overcome that when we're talking about social good? And what are the thoughts amongst the panelists about this?
Sorry, I didn't catch your question. Yeah.
Well, essentially, there's a lot of concern about data privacy.
Yeah.
And personal data protection. So when we're talking about collaboration and making use of data for social good, how do we overcome that?
Okay, so there is a lot of regulations, at least for government. There's the PDPA, which if organizations, they want to share data with outsiders, they have to adhere to that. And internally for government, we have our own guidelines as well when it comes to sharing. And a lot of times it's related to anonymizing the data, like to make sure the individual cannot be identified from the data. But at least from the technical standpoint, usually what most of us, we will agree is that we don't really try to identify people from the data. Like, we are interested in analyzing patterns from like a pool of data. Like, one person is not important to us. So I guess it is also like a lot of education again, like helping people to understand what we are using the data for, why we are collecting it for, and also following up, like to say that we have used your data for a certain purpose and this is the result. Yeah.
I mean, one of the startups that I was working with for a while was out of the pharma industry. And medical data, of course, is super private, and in pharma there's very clear walls that you have to draw. But a great concept was the data cafe. When you go to a cafe, you eat the food, you pay for the food, but you don't eat the plate. So it's kind of the same thing with a data cafe. The data is the plate. And you can hire a data cafe to provide you with the food, the de-identified, the sterilized data, the insights, the analysis, but the plate goes back to the kitchen, and you don't take that. So we need to have some similar concepts for our data.
Any other questions? Right, here's. Right. So just give a background. The question is, I run a crowdfunding platform called Give.Asia, where people can raise funds for charities as well as individuals in need, mostly medical cases. And we don't charge a commission fee on the donations. Instead, we allow people to make an optional tip to Give Asia at the checkout page. So if you're donating $100, $2 goes to the bank, or 1.5 goes to the bank, 98.5 goes to a charity, and we don't take anything from the donation. But if the donor wants, they can tip us. And the question the gentleman has is, why don't we charge, and is that sustainable? So I think that's kind of the issue. I mean, there's a different playbook when it comes to making profits and when it comes to making the world a better place. It's all right when people who are building like violent video games charge a lot of money, but when people working in the charity space charge money, we have an inherent problem with that, right? Like we want them to be just doing it for good intentions. So we kind of ran into that problem early on, and we realized that the cost of education was really high, in terms of explaining to people that there are operational costs associated with running a platform. So one of our team members had an idea, and it was like, you know what? Why don't we try this tipping option where we don't charge upfront, but we let people choose if they want to tip on top of the donation. So we just opened it up almost as a kind of experiment, and we were quite surprised when a lot of people started tipping us. And so now if anyone makes a donation on Give Asia and tips, I personally send an email to that person. So I'm sending a lot of emails, and I get replies from people, and those replies are amazing. I mean, we don't have investors; we are bootstrapped, but those people are our investors, right? Because they are putting their money and they are helping us grow to the next level. And just to share with you, I think this year we're going to cross $10 million in donations, and it's growing every year. So I think thank you. So I think there's something to be said about that. To be honest, it was a shock for me too. And when I started seeing people giving us tip, I was like, really? Maybe even the co-founder of Give Asia underestimated the generosity people have, right? So I think that was kind of an eye opener for us, that actually a lot of people are very generous, and they are happy to kind of support your effort as long as you're transparent about it, as long as you show that you're helping people. So back to that algorithm that you were mentioning about the AI algorithm with the apples and all that. I think it's true. If we have a lot, we are more likely to share, right? So it's just a Maslow's hierarchy, right? If you have more apples, you'll share more. The problem is that we live in a world order where maybe the 1% of the people are keeping billions of apples in their in the backyard, and they don't want to share it, right? So that's the problem. But I think with technology, with data, it's becoming more and more apparent, and people are now becoming familiar with the fact that, hey, what's going on. And luckily, we have now the Giving Pledge. We have companies who are putting money where their mouth is, and really talking about and showing. There are good examples. I mean, there are a lot of positive examples that we are seeing, and I really think in the next few years it's going to probably become a norm, right? Where you're going to see the for-profit and the for-purpose companies converge, right? I think that's where the future is. And that's why you guys are here. I mean, I wasn't expecting such a crowd for this event, so.
I mean, I co-founded a social enterprise just after that term was coined. And I had to go out and look it up. I mean, what is a social enterprise? And is this a charity? Is it a not-for-profit? Is it an NGO? What is this thing that we're doing? Inherent in the social enterprise model is that the organization does social good and can support itself. I think there's a huge amount of power in that because so many charities take in donations, then we take a hit to the economy, donations dry up and it's gone, and everyone's abandoned. So I personally feel there's a lot of power and sustainability in the social enterprise model. But that said, I think we underestimate altruism and to what degree people just want to give just to give. You can't count on that as a business model, but you should allow people to do it and facilitate that value.
Just to kind of add on that, I think you can count on it as a business model. And the reason I say that, because I think that's the future. I mean, you look at a lot of like, music, it's all commoditized now, right? Like most of the musicians are making money through physical experiences, through concerts, through like, through the stuff they are selling to their, not majority of their fans, but to the super fans. So I think, that's what's happening at Give as well. We are kind of disrupting the online giving space because, there are providers which in certain countries, not in Singapore, but in certain countries are charging as much as 50% of the donations. So when someone like us come into the play and say that, it's a free platform, suddenly that like the whole market dynamic changes. And I think with internet, with technology, you can do that. You can have a bunch of kids sitting in the garage or like sitting in their dorm, being able to get access to those tools and technology, which in the past would take millions, but now you can do it over a few months.
Now, initially, when the kids with the music studios in their dorms started that, they started on an advertising business model. But that advertising business model went away. So you have to have a lot more clever business models today. And my big question then would be, has your organization lived through the Lehman's crisis? Lehman's.
I just wanted to say that it's your business, so you really decide what you're going to charge for. And if you have built a business with a particular core value, then you decide whether you should be charging for that core value or that is the core and that should be offered no matter what to your users, to your members at no charge. So for us, we have a small business collaboration platform. So we know that small businesses don't have much money. So it's obviously free to join Busy. And we teach businesses how to collaborate because we want them to collaborate. So we have a course. So we're not going to charge people for the course because then they might not learn how to collaborate and then not be able to collaborate. And then we can't charge them to collaborate because if they don't collaborate, they can't grow. So we've had to figure out, little extra add-on services, and we've been very, very careful about making sure everything is always priced for emerging markets. So we only charge emerging market rates. We will only ever charge them. We've only got one revenue model at the moment. Another one's coming on. Well, we're launching it this week as an MVP. It will eventually become something that we charge, but we're talking a couple of dollars, something that someone, in India or in Africa will not think about. And when we see the countries that are coming onto Busy, it's emerging markets. Nigeria, massive market, powerhouse of Africa, 20 million small businesses, average age is kind of 24 and younger. They are hungry, and they're coming onto Busy in, thousands. And India, an emerging ASEAN. So, for us, we can already see if these businesses are coming on, there will be impact. And we can't start to charge against our core value, which is collaboration, is encouraging small business collaboration. So there should never be pressure on any of you to charge for certain things. It's your business. You decide how you're going to make money, how you want to make money, and don't ever feel pressured.
Just adding to the point, I think it is very difficult, right? If you're starting a social enterprise, first you got to be an enterprise, and like then you kind of think about social. Like so, there are like different fractions to it, right? So when I first started Give Asia, I was like, in the early days, I was like, you know what, I'm not about learning, earning, returning, right? So that's what like stages of life generally are. You start with learning as a student, then you start earning, and then you start returning, right? And I was like, you know what, I want to mix it up. Like I want to do everything at the same time. I want to learn, I want to earn, and I want to return at the same time. I don't want to wait until I'm like rich and old to like start thinking about philanthropy. I want to do whatever I can right now so that I feel good about it and I can also help people. Having said that, I think starting a social enterprise, I have to be very careful with my words now. It is like taking on, starting a business in itself is a huge challenge. Starting a social enterprise is like, to the power X, right? Like to the power, it's double hard, right? Compared to just like starting a company. So I think being aware of that would have really helped me. Like, when I started out as like kind of, as a teenager or entrepreneur, I was like, yeah, like, within 1 year, we're going to be like doing $1 million in donation. Within 2 years, we're going to be $10 million in donations. Just takes longer when you are solving a social problem because, you are changing social behavior. You're changing, the way people think about certain categories. So I think patience is a big part of the game. And maybe you guys can also share like your journeys, like how long it took.
I'll just share this. Ricardo Semler, if you need to give back, you took too much. So I agree wholeheartedly with just create the value and share it and come up with a model that works. And there's a million different business models. Go ahead and explore them and get creative.
Add on as a user, like most people. So I am a beneficiary of a lot of free stuff, like all the free apps, Slack, like also GitHub and a lot of things where it actually brings people to co-create and also add value and help people to enable more solutions actually. So yeah, I am like thankful that there is this collaborative spirit within the tech community. Yeah.
We're launching a summit on small business collaboration, and I've been interviewing 30 to 40 amazing entrepreneurs from around the world. And one I interviewed is working specifically with millennials. And we started to talk about this kind of generational change, and that really the millennial and younger generation are very much driven by purpose, by the impact that they can make. So answering your question just about, big companies and are we all doomed? I don't think so. I think that the generations coming up now are far more motivated by the good they can do, by the change they can make. And I think greed is bad always, but when I see, I've met a lot of like students at conferences, and it excites me so much, the potential. I almost feel a bit bad that the world is the way it is because it's they're nervous. They're nervous about the state of the environment. They're nervous about AI and about will we have jobs? They have a lot of worry, but I think that they are motivated to make an impact and to work with purpose, whatever that is. And I just think that's really, really positive for the future.
But instead of looking at what's happened over the past day or 10 minutes or a week on our mobile phones, could we step back for a moment to 1946? World War II had just finished, and Mr. Matsushita in Japan was trying to build up the Matsushita Electric Corporation. It later on became Panasonic, worth $4 trillion. And he said, look, and he founded the PHP Institute, Peace and Happiness Through Prosperity. Okay, so this quote-unquote millennial obsession with doing social good and whatnot, it was being written about and done many decades ago, by people who actually rebuilt societies, rebuilt economies, and economies and businesses and societies have always thrived together. We're just recapturing that. It's an old story.
All right, is there any other question we have on the floor? If not, then yeah, there's one last question.
I have a question specific about collaboration. So thinking from also a tech point of view, right? Because as a small, if I start a small tech business, I generally want to really focus on the tech skill, and the difficulty is reaching out to a massive kind of market because I don't have the muscle power to really get a lot of adoption. And on the other end, when you have a lot of small businesses who need the tech but cannot pay for it because they are too small, and it doesn't make sense, to have a wonderful genius algorithm running in one shop. So, with respect to collaboration in terms of, on the ground businesses, versus, very small tech firms, how would you enable that platform creation, which I think is probably the advantages of big companies because they have the market, they have the customers, and they have the money to pay the tech at the same time, which is why, they probably get the biggest pie of the profit. So how would you make collaboration work for like small tech to small companies?
So you'd be surprised to know that actually a lot of large companies are very happy to outsource and give tenders to smaller SMEs and more nimble companies. I interviewed an amazing guy here in Singapore who started out in Singapore, again, with one tech, like you, one tech specialization. And he realized, well, obviously, he can't grow on one tech specialization. So he started to think collaboratively, what other complementary technologies can he find? So people like you who are doing complementary to create a suite of products with an offering that together, they are stronger together and they are a total solution. And they then went up and started getting some jobs and earned their stripes and then started to tender for DBS and government and airlines, whatever it was, and they started to get that business. So what I will say about collaboration is, firstly, if you join Busy, everybody can do this free collaboration course. So it's only 4 videos of 5 minutes and some workbooks that will help you think about all the different complementary businesses, and not only thinking about your industry, but thinking about possibly crossing industries. And that's something people don't necessarily think about. And by sitting down and thinking about all the different complementary businesses that you can work with, and you can start to create new product offerings. And within each of the collaborative partners that you're working with, you don't necessarily have to form a company with them. You can just have a relationship, a collaborative arrangement, and you start slowly and see how it goes. This gentleman has ended up going into business with that original collaborative partner, and they're doing incredibly well. But that's not how, that pressure doesn't need to happen when you first start. And just by starting to collaborate, the people that you know is a network to the someone you're collaborating with. The people they know is a network. So as you come together, you will start to find that between you know a lot of people, you might have expertise in different industries, but you just have to start. And the minute you do, you'll get that collaborative bug, and you'll start to be able to build your business on this model where you're not fearing that you're just one person, because you're not. You're a group of people, and you can save costs. You can find efficiencies in all your businesses. You can start to share space. There are loads of ways that you can save money and make money by working with other businesses. So don't get discouraged just as you're one. The challenge is there to now find those complementary businesses to be able to get the bigger work.
Great. All right. Okay, for me personally, I think this was such an amazing and insightful session, from CJ sharing about PHP, which I always thought was a programming language, but it's actually it's actually peace and happiness through prosperity. And what a great idea. And that idea has probably been around for a long, long time. It was probably just not very well documented, right? Like you go from country to country, culture to culture. In India, you have the Tatas. So that was really
Well,
great.
you have to speak Japanese, you know.
Right, okay. Arigato. Okay.
Do itashimashite.
Okay. Yeah. So I really like that concept of creating value and sharing it. I think sharing it is the part where all of us can do better. And I think you have to share first. And that's how collaboration begins, right? First, you have to go out to other companies and other organizations and share stuff with them, give to them. That's when you can also in future sometimes get back something. And really amazing, Hushyang, for you to kind of share about your experience with the fellowship and how you are while working at CPF also using your skills to give back to a local organization like Acres. Just a shout out, if you guys want, you can go to acres.give.asia. They are having a project right now where they are repatriating about 100 turtles back to India, Indian Ocean, and they are raising $25,000. So I think they're about $4,000 in. So if you want to help the turtles, please go to acres.give.asia. And just to kind of summarize and end this off, I think we can do an experiment. So one really great thing you shared about was micro impact. This idea about we don't have to really think about changing the world. We can start creating a micro impact right here. So on the theme of collaboration, we want to create a micro impact. So this is completely impromptu. I just thought of it. I'm going to put myself on the spot here. So all of you, I would request all of you to stand up. And for the next 10 minutes, I challenge you guys to meet at least 5 people who you've not met before. And I just want to tell you, it's like, the people here are interested in tech, are interested in data, are interested in social good. It's very hard to find this kind of combination of people. So introduce yourself to 5 new people, new people, all right? Let's go. All right, thank you.